didn't purposely shamelessly plug.
What? Say that again.
I didn't purposely shamelessly plug the company. I just had the shirt on.
There you go. Kathleen, you got to make sure you edit that. All right, gang, we are here for, this is getting a little tricky now because now we have to go to two hands. So we have episode 14 with Drew O'Brien. My buddy Drew, he is the founder of the design company. Many of you know him though as the founder of O'Brien Creative. That was the original company going back in time. Drew, welcome to the show. Hopefully all 4 people are watching right now or will be watching when they go on. It's great to have you. Good morning. You look great. Your hair's impeccable. The line of the whole thing, just fantastic. And I see you got your new, oh, look at that. If I would have read it, it's on your shirt.
Yeah.
O'Brien Creative was started in 2017, which is now evolved into the design company. Welcome to Homage. This is an homage to you. I don't think in my preparation for this, when we met through a mutual friend, I don't think you know how much you kind of put life into perspective for me. That first conversation we had in my basement over some food and a few pops. But so thank you. I wanted to bring you on today. Like I said, as an homage, give you a chance. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here, because the design company's only been around for I don't know, what is it, like 6 months now? You can maybe not even. Tell us a little bit about what's going on. What's going on in the world of Mr. Drew O'Brien this morning?
Sure. First and foremost, thanks for having me on for number 14.
Yeah.
Similar to what you said in terms of I didn't know the effect that it had on you, I could say the same thing, and I'm sure we will get into that. But the design company actually has been around almost a year now.
Wow.
I was on my own as the O'Brien Creative Group for about 4 years, and then I received 2 partners, David and Philippe. A little shout out to them, and I decided to, Mad Men style, take my name off the door. And it actually was the best decision I ever made. And I wish I made it 5 years ago, taking my name off the door. But other than that, I mean, with COVID and the storms, everything has been a little crazy lately. But at the end of the day, we're safe and we're putting everything into perspective. So, things are going okay. Could definitely be worse.
So let me ask you, because that's a really good place to start, I guess. When I met Drew a few years ago, this was in 2019. He was at a place with O'Brien Creative where it was kind of like, what's the next step? And what you just said, and kind of as a part of the journey that you've had over the last, call it 2 years, Drew is very, or was very much like I was, where our initials were both on the door. And, there's a lot to be said for actually taking them off the door. I was a little farther down the road. So like the brand equity built over 13 years or whatever it was, I really didn't have that opportunity. But tell us about kind of like that move and why it was so difficult, and why it was kind of like, because when you start a company and your name's on the door, that's like everything. Like that's like you're putting your name on the line, and kind of like that's it. Like there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to hide behind after that. So tell me that move and why you just said that, because I think it's a great lesson for business owners that, whether you're starting out or whatever, it's not easy to do that. So I give you a tremendous amount of credit for rebranding into now what is the design company. But tell us about that, because I can't imagine it was an easy, when you're doing it now, you have hindsight and perspective.
Exactly.
Able to say, I wish I would have done it 5 years ago, but as you were doing it, there was probably a lot of trepidation. Like, this is what we've been for 3 years, and now it's scary to change. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is obviously 2020, right? But at the time, I had an ego about the name, to be quite honest. I thought that we had the brand equity that in reality we didn't really have. Everyone just knew me as the designer, not necessarily the company, right? So that was our biggest thing, because I never really planned on getting into business myself. I kind of fell into it. My goal was always to be like a creative director in one of the big agencies in the city, and I was on my way to doing that. And then, a couple things didn't go my way, and then now the design company is born. So I'm thankful for all of that happening. But really, it came down to, I was sitting in this room where I am right now with my two business partners, and we were brainstorming on what we could come up with together now that it wasn't just me. Because previously it was just me doing 85% of the work, right? I had a team when we were O'Brien Creative Group, but it's still, everything fell on my shoulders. So now that I have a team, a proper team and partners, and it's kind of a silly story, but I made a couple t-shirts that with our logo on it, which said O'Brien Creative Group. And David and Philippe, I noticed that they weren't wearing it. And I didn't ask them, but it hit me. They're wearing someone else's name on their shirt, right? It was kind of like wearing like a basketball jersey. And I was like, wow, they're not wearing it because their name isn't on the door per se. So I was like, all right, it's time to switch this up. It's time to change it. And truthfully, it was time for a fresh start with the new partners. But in this room, we had there's a board over here. There's about 50 names on the board. And we just kept coming back to that. We're a design company. And we just decided to choose that name. It wasn't easy to totally switch it around, but once it was switched, like I said earlier, I wish I never had my name on the door, because it was never about me. It was about the team. It was about everybody else. It was about the clients at the end of the day. Obviously, it's harder for DSM for you to take your initials up the door when you're around for, almost 2 decades, but we were only around for, 20% of that. So it was time to make a change. And at the end of the day, it worked out beautifully.
The way you just position that, you're a total marketing guy. That was Drew's nice way of saying you're a freaking fossil. 2 decades. That's like, when you say it that way and not like almost 15 years old, it's kind of like that, just like, oh my gosh, it's scary.
No, it's impressive. It's impressive, especially, the agency landscape has changed, right? Everyone is joining together or morphing or doing their own thing. And it's impressive to be in business that long, really, in any business, never mind a creative agency or a marketing agency, whatever term you want to put on DSM. It's impressive, just period. It's not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy. It's a touch scary. It's a touch awesome. It's a touch all kinds of things. But yeah, when you say it that way, it just made me feel really old. My beard.
I mean, you are old. Lights? You are older than me, but yeah, you're not old.
See all these? That's because of DSM and my kids.
Fair. More so your kids, I would say.
More so my kids. Okay, so the evolution now, design company is a year old. So explain, as you're going through this change, because one of the things that we spoke about early on, you're doing a beautiful job with the segues today. One of the things we spoke early on when we first started talking together was like, dude, everything's falling on my shoulders. And I had kind of gotten to a place at that point where, wasn't the greatest time in the company's history, but I had at least gotten to a place where I was able to delegate very well, and put people in positions that now you say, like, now with the design company, now we have a proper team and 85% of the work is not falling on my shoulders. You were kind of at that place of like, dude, I'm burning out. Like, I'm burning out. There was no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And I guess the biggest gift at that point in my life although many things were kind of like, felt like they were crumbling around me, was talking to like, hey man, these are the things that I did in order to get myself out of, you know, the initial thing on the door, me in a front porch doing like everything and finding the right people. So that evolutionary process, explain for the listeners, I guess, like, being that it's so kind of fresh, how has that changed your life? Like having those partners and being, you know, a recent, I mean, not like a total newlywed, but like there's things that are happening on the other side of your life too, that it kind of happened for me years earlier, that I had to make these changes because, you know, like when we had Tessa, when we had our third kid, I couldn't be outside mowing the lawn with a 6-pack of beer on like a Saturday for 4 hours, you know, like certain
Yeah,
things had to change. But like, you know, having a new wife and having all these things, like how has it changed your life? Having now this proper
sure.
team to not be bogged down like every day in the minutia, I guess.
Sure. I'm going to actually start by telling a story about you, and then I'm going to bring it around, right? About maybe 3, 4 years ago, I don't even remember the time frame at this point between COVID. I could barely tell what day of the week it is. But I came to you, as you mentioned earlier, and I was burned out. I was at a point where I either had to scale up or scale down, right? And I'm not necessarily someone who is programmed to scale down. So I came, every listener here, listener, hopefully we have plural. Um, I came to Darren at DSM and I said, here's my 50 clients. I'm done with this. Like, take me on. I'll join DSM. You bring my 50 clients. And I want to say 99 business owners out of 100 would have taken out a piece of paper and had me sign on the dotted line that day, right? I would have been Darren's employee. I would have been helping him with the creative in a time when, you know, at that time, you know, the creative team needed some help. Shout out to Derek, just because I know he's still out there killing it. But to make a long story short, Darren said, no, go home and think about this. And on that drive home from Mawa to Montclair, after having the conversation with you, I said, wow, like he could have just snatched me up right there. And that's just a testament to you as a human being and to you as a business owner, to where you knew what I and now the design company could have been, and you decided to not snatch us up, but guide me and in turn guide us. So fast forward now that I have some partners and I have a team, like you said, right? 2 years ago, I couldn't be away from my computer for 5 hours without worrying. Now, a lot of it was anxieties and insecurities on my side, but for a good example, our house just got some water, right? Because we had this storm. I don't even know the hurricane. What was it?
Ida.
Hurricane Ida. I'll remember that name. But my wife Gabby and I, we spent, you know, basically 2 days cleaning up our basement. And in retrospect, we were lucky compared to some of the other damage that we saw. But I had our entire team pick up the slack. Right, we have our team of designers. We had Angelique, our brand manager. We had my partners David and Philippe. They were like, "Don't worry, we got this." And it hit me that I was like, "Wow, I could actually take a step back for a day or two and get it together." And you know, although I was still checking my phone and you know, being a business owner, I didn't have to be stuck on a laptop on vacation when, you know, my wife and I, we want to walk around some city and I'm looking at my Apple Watch as I'm getting texts, right? So not that, you know, that my team handles everything, still I'm still directly involved on the day to day, but it's a massive weight on off of my shoulders, knowing that I could literally turn to my right and to my left and say, hey team, like, let's get on this. And it's something that I always had when I worked for other people, and I missed that in the 4 years that I was solely by myself essentially. And once I joined the team, it was a whole new world. And to go back to you, I might not have been able to get that if you snatched up at the time O'Brien Creative Group and said, sure, I'm going to take on these people. We're going to maximize all these clients and we're going to make X amount of revenue, right? Most business owners would have done that. You didn't. And I use that story not only to show how people should act, but it was a smart move, right? I probably would have went there. I probably would have low key hated you 2 years down the road because I made a mistake, right? You saw that though. You knew and you saw it in me, and that shows why DSM and your team is like a family. And even though the DSM team went through some hardships, if you will, I know that you guys came out on the other side because you and your team are leading everyone through it. So I just really, really want to get that story out because I know that you're doing this and paying homage to other people, but you are a massive reason why I'm sitting in this office here today with the team, even though I kicked them all out because I didn't want any noise here. But at the end of the day, it's something that means a lot to me and my family.
Thank you. The interesting part of that story, the challenges that you talk about, and only being able to kind of open up about them a few years later. The only reason that I could do that at that point, I probably, if it was 2 years before what you're talking about, I probably would have been a greedy prick and been like, hey man, like, let's do this. And then, but because of the challenges that we were facing at that point when we met, talk about fate happening, like I didn't want to end up in the same situation that I was in. And I could see the way when I met you, I could see very clearly who Drew O'Brien was. And so it was easy to tell you, like, dude, you need to be leading. You need to be leading the line. And so, probably 2 years earlier, it might have been a different fate, but going through the hard times and all that, I guess both of us on a certain level, we're going through different hard times at the same time. And that's what kind of led to the foresight to be able to say that. So it wasn't any great like epiphany that I had. I appreciate it, but it was kind of like, I could see a lot of the same frustrations that I was dealing with going through you at the same time. Yeah. So it made it easy.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think life and business, it comes down to timing a lot of the times too, right? Timing, there's a reason why the saying timing is everything. I never really looked into that or thought twice about it, but that's a great example of, and even something as simple as getting a client or meeting your future partner in a bar at that time on that day, like it really does come down to timing. And I think that's one thing that, once again, in life and business, that people really take for granted.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. Everything that's happened since that time has happened to, like what you said about having a team and that is working together and rowing the boat in the same direction, and everybody has their thing that they do and they do it really well. And you do you, let me do me, and we'll together we'll I'll be a percussion, you be a violin, you be a clarinet, and the whole thing, when it comes together, that's the beauty of what you're seeing now. So but getting back, because I don't want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. So okay, so we're at a year with the design company. You've got your team, you've got your partners, other than having to bilge out your basement from Hurricane Ida. How has this new conglomeration kind of come together? And for those that might be watching this that are earlier on in their journey of entrepreneurship, what bit of advice could you give them with regards to putting your sort of pride aside, letting go of things? Like, what have you learned over the last year with the design company that's going to help propel you guys to where you're going to go in the next 3 years in terms of like
being a part of a team and not being that lone wolf. And like, give me your thoughts on that. What do you think about, because I know the design companies, the other thing that I love, when you put the deck in front of me before you kind of launched it, it was like, this is who we're going to be. And it was, it's edgy. It's edgy. Like,
Mhm.
like I said to you, I'm not sure DSM can get away with that kind of edginess anymore. But I said, dude, if you are going to put this out there, you better get ready to own it. And you guys have. So tell business owners, like, over the next 3 years, and like, you have certain, the best way I can say it, there's certain things when you launch a company, and for every new business owner out there, listen to this, because Drew, you know, he'll give it to you straight. You have a certain amount of license that as you get a bit more mature, you don't have anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to own it and you're willing to be out there and like put a message out there that's maybe a little edgy, maybe out, outside the box, which is awesome. But tell us about that, like, own that, and give a young business owner or new entrepreneur how you got to that, and like why you're able to stand by it. Because I love that.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. If I could go back in time, not even in business and life, to when I hit puberty, you could even say, I think the biggest thing is you have to be, in life and in business, 100% authentically yourself. And at 33 years old, it took me 33 years to really kind of hone into that.
And be comfortable in your skin.
Exactly. So from our perspective, from the design company, you know, if the clients don't like our mantra, right? If they don't like how we talk, how we look, how we act, how we carry ourselves, if we're all walking into the room, I have the least amount of tattoos in the company, and we only pretty much wear black, and we're not wearing suits. My partners will roll in with Gucci t-shirts on, and if they don't like who we are, then immediately we're not going to do business with you. The money, all it does is entangle and make everything more complicated. So if you are, money is great, don't get me wrong, but if we sense that this client's going to be an issue or they really don't like us, even if we came highly referred, we'll keep it moving. And what my partners have told me, the best thing you could get sometimes is a no, right? So the combination of go all in into who you are. I wish, once again, I've said this many times already on here, 4 years ago, I wish I knew all these things. Whoever you are, whether you're owning a pizzeria, a creative agency, or it doesn't matter what it is. You have an idea, you believe in it, do it, do you, and then the money and everything will follow. It sounds so cliche, but it's so simple.
The right money.
Correct.
The right money.
The real quick, the biggest issue and the biggest mistake I made in the 4 years while it was just me, if a client said they have X amount of dollars, I would just take it and do it without vetting, I just saw the dollar sign and I took it because I had a mortgage to pay, right? And yes, bills need to be paid, but if I curated our client list earlier, if I curated who we were, now that we're all together here at the design company, every single day we are who we are. And if someone doesn't like it, there's another agency out there that could help you. It's as simple as that. There's too many agencies out here that can help you.
And let's frame that out. So we're giving an agency example. One of the things that Drew, one of the reasons I have a tremendous respect for Drew is because he's always available as a resource. This is not a no, like an arrogant no. It's not like, we're not for you, like, shove off. Like, this is, hey, we're here. Let's figure out a way to help you. It's the same thing. We just got to know. I got a referral last week from a guy, literally his wife is now the marketing director of a company, used to work with him 12 years ago for some media outlet. I don't even know who it was.
she came last week. We put together a deck. We're not what we needed at that point because it was a lot of development hours. It wasn't a lot of marketing.
Yep.
And she's like, look, you guys are not the right fit here, but I have so much respect for what you pulled together in a week. And when we're ready for marketing, you are going to be my guys.
Exactly.
And so I was like, great, like Carol, like whatever you need, like we're not the right fit for this. You need tons of development hours because everything's messed up on your website. Great.
But because you did such a great job and you busted your butts to get that pitch out in that amount of time, could be 6 months, could be 6 years down the line when they have 100K a month, 100K a day to market themselves, they're going to go back to you. And I'm glad you kind of segued into that because it's not like a no F off type of situation. It's no, but if you do need, if you want to rebrand your entire company down the road, if you want to market yourself down the road, if you need to visually change who you are, sure, we're here. And not even that, sometimes what we'll do is not even is it a no, but it's a no, but hey, here's DSM or here's XYZ, right? It's the second biggest thing I've learned in business is I'm not in the creative agency business. We don't make logos. We don't do this. We don't do that. We're in the relationship business because that's all business is at the end of the day.
Yep.
Trusting who you're working with, trusting X amount of dollars going to someone and knowing that the job is going to get done, whether it's a agency or a sandwich shop. It's the process is the same.
And that's something going on to 15 years in February. That's something that I learned very early on because this state, one of the beautiful examples of how small this state is that we can the design company and DSM can coexist and be legit friends. I mean, our relationship, Drew and we have a group of 6 guys that, you know, previous guests have been a part of that we just met yesterday on the phone for like a half an hour. A bunch of guys had different things they had to do, but these relationships now go beyond work. It's not a work relationship anymore. It's something that like people's lives have been affected by these relationships and getting together once a month to talk and to, you know, about whatever, about going, you know, one of our buddies went to Europe with a new girlfriend and it was just like, what, like, Trent, you're the man, bro.
Yeah, Trent.
I like, this is how, it's funny when you say it because this is how, it's almost like the best way to say it. This is how life is done, you know? And the fact that we can coexist, not 15 miles apart, and have a friendship and to be a part of something that is bigger than you. And it's kind of like it's kind of a shout out to all the agencies in New Jersey because the community is very small, very tight, and everybody knows each other, you know. But being able to have a resounding effect beyond just your job, it's what makes it really awesome. And
Yeah.
so that's a huge part of it that I don't want to get lost on this interview. That Drew and I, you know, like we don't get to see each other a lot just because we're at different phases of our lives, and I'm coaching my kid and all this, and Drew's, you know, pumping water out of his basement. But if I got a call from Drew at 3 o'clock at night, you know, in the morning, and was like, dude, I need your help with something, like that's just what it's become now. And that's the best part of it, you know. Maybe getting you out of jail or something like that, like don't wander the streets or anything, you know, in your CVs, but
I appreciate that. But you brought up a good point because we both started in Manhattan and we know what the Manhattan quote unquote agency life is like. And it's not like that. It's not it's hyper cutthroat, right? No one, you know, one major agency is not having a party or even going to the same event as the other agency without talking trash, right? So don't get me wrong, there's haters in New Jersey as well, a lot of these agency owners. But with that being said, the fact that we can coexist, we have a lot of the same services, right? Maybe at two different stages of our careers at the moment, but a lot of other companies, cultures would immediately think of us as enemies. And like you said, it's become the complete opposite. And obviously, we become friends now. But I think that's important in business and in life in general, too. Not everyone, I think social media has kind of ruined that for people. Not everybody is your enemy just because they offer the same service.
Mhm.
Right? We do things differently, you do things differently, and we could all eat at the end of the day because we are 10 miles outside of Manhattan. We do have that experience. And yes, we all would love Nike and Coca-Cola as clients, and McDonald's is great, but you know, there's a lot of fish in the ocean, and not everyone you got to get is a whale.
Not only is not every fish in the ocean a whale, the relationships, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, when you find the right formula and you find the right clients and you find ultimately what turn into, when you say like the friendships are the relationships are the most important, a lot of those relationships with clients turn into friendships, and a lot of those friendships become bigger than it's amazing as I'm saying this because I don't like think about these things and put them together until they're like being put out into the world. Many of the relationships that you've probably had too, even though it's at different stages, they become deeper than just, it doesn't matter if it's you and me with two agencies or you and your clients. When you find the right formula and ultimately the right people and you're doing things the right way, there's this symbiotic type of thing that happens that just, it's amazing. It's how our businesses are built, and it's why anybody who's out there, to a point that Drew just said, that thinks being in a Manhattan agency is like glamorous, it's totally not.
It sucks.
And I loved my experience. My 5 years that I spent at a New York agency were some of the most fun, some of the most awesome. In my 20s, it was like a fraternity house, like but like we grew so close as a team because we spent so much time together. But that's ultimately why I started DSN, was to have work-life balance and not to be pulling 24-hour, sessions in an office. And I think ultimately those relationships and the things that have formed have made it, man, this is getting deep. Like, I don't even think about these things, but it's like, wow, how much you can, how many, like the web that you can weave together over the course of time and do it in a way that like serves not only a career of like making money, the thing you have to do in order to survive, but also like creating this vast like lake of like fish that are ultimately connected, and like how to piece it together. That's
No, I mean,
Doc, you're good, Doc. You Doc.
just to give you, just to wrap that up in terms of relationships, my current business partners were clients of ours when we were O'Brien Creative Group, and we worked well together, and they liked how we worked, and I liked how they worked, and we in turn are now partners. We had a call the other day with me and my partners with Darren and DSM about a potential piece of business. That 30-second piece right there was 6 years in the making.
Yep.
With timing, relationships, there's way too many pieces of the web to kind of put it together in this on this interview. But at the end of the day, none of that would have happened if you and I wouldn't have had that conversation. years ago in your backyard while drinking some Miller Lights. Like, it's as simple as that. And now that, to me, that's
Wow,
pretty beautiful.
that's awesome. All right. So Drew O'Brien, we'll wrap this up here. But before we go, there's two things. First, my homage to you, my friend, is that you keep doing the things that you're doing, because without knowing it, you are impacting many, many people, not only as a friend, I can say that, in spades, but as a young entrepreneur, and I say that with the greatest amount of respect because I'm old, but keep doing what you're doing and building it up and passing it down to people behind you, because you are wise beyond what you sometimes think you are. Like you have it you have it put together, and sometimes it takes a little less time and sometimes it takes a little bit more time. But what I will tell you is keep doing the things that you're doing, because even a fossil like me, some of the moves that you make, you help me to see some of the things that I continue to need to be doing. And so for that, I thank you. I thank you for being an amazing human being, an amazing friend. Continue on this journey, because whatever started 2 years ago in that conversation and where you are today, I can tell you that we'll be sitting here in 2 years, and whatever iteration of the design company or whatever, I don't even know what it's going to be, because you guys are like doing things and putting a message out there that is completely honest, completely awesome, and completely and utterly, like, you're owning it to the umpteenth degree. And for that, my homage, that is my homage to you and your partners. Now, guys, keep this guy going, and vice versa. You keep your two partners going, and make sure that you do not let the small, don't put the blinders on, because I think as we come out of the next 2 years, out of this pandemic and everything that's going on, I think you guys are going to be trendsetters. Not that there's not other brands that are doing it, but you're doing it in a way that is awesome because you're owning it. And that is so missed sometimes in the world we live in. So keep doing that and keep pushing the boundaries. And because you're helping guys like me to continue to learn and to continue to remember what it was like a long time ago, and look up to you guys as you're doing it. So thank you. And I want to give the last few minutes to you. What's next for Design Company? What's next for Drew O'Brien? Tell the world, man. Give the young entrepreneurs watching this a little bit of advice straight from Drew.
Well, before we go, I just want to say thank you again for having me on. And I similarly look up to you as a human being, as a father, as a business owner. And I appreciate the compliments, because like I said earlier, I don't know if we'd be in this place if it wasn't for you. What's next for the design company?
Yeah, man. 0 to 300 million.
Yeah, listen,
Go.
the answer, that's a yes for sure. It's not an if, it's just when. And at the end of the day, we are just curating our own business model, and we are helping clients grow. Simply put, right? Whether it's through branding, through marketing, through social. I think it's super important for every entrepreneur kind of to go back to what they were saying earlier. We live in a world where everybody says they're one thing just because they think that's cool, right? You know, people say all the time, "Oh, we are not your average agency," right? But yeah, sure, we say that too. But we're actually diving into it. We actually are doing what we're saying. We put our money where our mouth is. So our goal in the next year or so is to obviously grow the revenue of the company, but at the end of the day is build all of our clients up. You know, rising tide raises all ships, whether you're a $1 billion client that we work with or a pizzeria across the street. We want to help other small to medium to size, large size businesses grow because we've been a small business too. We understand what it's like. And at the end of the day, we just want to bring our talents and our mindset and our thought process to everyone as long as we work well together.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I think the key coming out of this is understanding it. Again, you did a beautiful job kind of saying it, and it's a reason why you've been able to put pride aside on one side and be able to grow on the other, because you're willing to put yourself out there, and you've evolved to a place now where you're not taking on clients just to take on clients.
Yeah. And it's not easy. It took a while to get there mentally, emotionally, hell, physically.
Yeah, man.
But at the end of the day, once you hit that stride, and listen, we're nowhere near where we want to be, because we want to take over the world, simply put. But we are quickly on that path, and it's going to take everybody a different amount of time to get to that authentically themselves and really hit their stride. But you could feel the energy in the room when you hit that stride. Everybody will know it, and then you just got to go all in.
Love it. Love it. The energy in the room. It's a magical place when all pistons are firing.
Yeah, it is. It's rare, and if you never felt it before, it's a new feeling, right? For me, it's a new feeling, but I've never been more energized and excited to come to work every day when maybe 2 or 3 years ago, like you said, Darren, I hated running my own company. As honest as that is, now I'm genuinely happy with what I do, and I don't know if I was ever going to get there, and now I'm here, and thanks to you, my partners, and my wife, and a billion other people. It's never about just you; it's about everyone else. And once, whoever you are, once you hit that stride, and once you kind of open up your blinders, I think your life will change.
Sorry if that was really loud. That
Thank
was rad. That
Thank you
was
for coming to my TED Talk.
that was rad. As that was. We're ending it there. That's it. We're done.
Mic drop moment.
Mic drop. Drew O'Brien, thank you so much, guys. Check out the design company. Check out what they're doing. Check out their messaging. Not only is it authentic, but it's funny as hell. So many great stories you'll appreciate in this interview. When Drew sent me the deck, I was like, bro, better get ready to own this. Like, it's amazing. Thank you so much for your friendship. Thank you so much for being you. And that's a wrap on this one. Episode 14 is in the books. Drew O'Brien, rock on, brother.
Thank you again, Darren, and best of luck to you in the future as well.
Thanks, pal. All right. Take care, guys.
See you.